bien, mes chers amis, merci d'être nombreux aujourd'hui en présentiel ici et par webinaire interposé. Et vous avez un problème de son, c'est bon? C'est bon le son? Ah, d'accord. Et par webinaire interposé pour cette présentation tout à fait intéressante d'un ouvrage Cyberpower qui a été publié récemment par les éditions Les Arènes. Et nous avons le plaisir, l'avantage, l'honneur de recevoir Eviatar Matania qui va, en quelque sorte, nous présenter son ouvrage, surtout nous raconter l'histoire de la cybersécurité en Israël, comment Israël est devenu un pays en pointe dans le domaine de la cybersécurité. Je vais commencer par remercier Ahmed Beladi qui nous accueille dans ces lieux, et c'est une très bonne chose. Je vous remercie, Ahmed, vous qui êtes un ancien de la majeure souveraineté numérique, cybersécurité, l'IHEDN. Vous êtes en quelque sorte dans le droit fil de l'esprit de la session qui fait qu'on continue après à agir pour la cybersécurité. Bien sûr, cette manifestation est une co-organisation entre les éditions Les Arènes, le Forum international de la cybersécurité, le FIC, avec son média INCYBER, et évidemment la majeure souveraineté numérique et cybersécurité de l'IHEDN. Après avoir accueilli Eviatar Matania, je laisserai la parole à Guy-Philippe Goldstein. Il n'est pas là par hasard. Il n'est pas là par hasard parce que quand on prend le livre d'Eviatar, dès les premières pages, il apparaît comme étant celui qui, au travers de son livre Babel, Minute Zéro, lu nuitamment par le Premier ministre Netanyahou à l'époque, a entraîné comme une sorte de déclic qui a été le point de départ de toute l'aventure cyber d'Israël. Donc, Guy-Philippe continuera après moi en anglais avec Eviatar. Mais maintenant, je vais me tourner vers Eviatar en lui disant « Shalom, Eviatar Matania, toda she'ata kan itanu hayom, be'as matan, motzi or les arènes, הפורום הבינלאומי לסיברסקיוריטי והמכונה ללימודי ביטחון הלאומי, הספר שלך, Cyberpower, הוא סיפור היסטורי יוצא מהכלל, אבל הוא גם מדריך להווה ולעתיד, הוא מראה שעוצמת הסיבר תלוי תוגם כל ברצון פוליטי. היא גם הצעה שפעילות הצרכנים, הציבוריים והפרטיים שפועלים יחד עם היגיון שונה, אבל עם מטרה משותפת, ריבונות נומרית. אני משאיר את הבמה לגיי-פיליפ גולדשטיין, שימשיך את הדיון. תודה שוב על נוכחותכם ותודה על שיתוף הניסיון.
So, good afternoon. Thank you, General. At least I could understand the final words that you said, or the Hebrew, because I'm sorry, but I don't speak French, but the Hebrew I could understand. Thank you for that. And I'd like to start with some thanks for being here. Thanks to Les Arènes and to Flo that brought me here and decided to publish my book, co-authored with Amir Rapoport, in French. It's a privilege and honor, and I thank you for that, and the whole group of Les Arènes. And I will try today to give you some perspective about cyber that I hope will be at least interesting for most of you. With some, I will call it a more governmental perspective of how to approach the whole issue of cyber based on the Israeli experience and my own experience and understanding of this issue during the last decade. I will start with something about the book. The book, The Cyberpower, is trying to bring the issue of cyber to everyone, to layman people, in order that they will understand three major issues. One, what cyber is, cyber evolution. Second, how a small nation state succeeded to bring itself to be one of the global powers in the world in cyber through a very, I called it, advanced approach. And third, how the future of wars is going to look like. And there we have more questions and answers, but I tried in the book to at least start and put these the relevant issues and questions on the table, what we call. What I will try to do today, I will talk about 5 subjects. I will start with explaining how we see cyber, how we perceive cyber, and what the cyber evolution is from our point of view, from the Israeli point of view. I will then proceed with explaining the origins of cyber power in the 90s. I will then try to explain what is so unique in cyber compared to conventional wars. And from this, I will try to generate what the role of governments should be in the cyber domain and how they should work with the private sector. And I will then try to talk a little bit about something very interesting that currently occurring in Ukraine, or what's in between Russia and Ukraine, and the role of the global technological corporates, and why most of them are stronger than most of nation states on earth in the cyber domain. So these are the 5 subjects I will try to approach today, and I will start again with the cyber evolution and how we see cyber from our perspective in Israel. So cyber is important to understand. This is a revolution, and cyber in general, it is the combination of total connectivity of all the telecommunication networks, computerized networks and systems around the world to one big network, and the ability to reach every point on earth and every human being through this new domain, through your iPhones, through your not iPhones. You have, some people have not iPhones, but other cell phones, but through cell phones or through the internet, and even what we call closed and separate systems are, we think that they are closed, but no, they're not so close, and usually they are also connected. So cyber is a combination of this total connectivity and the ability to process data in velocity and paces that we haven't yet known some 20 to 30 years ago. This combination brings a new world. Think about how you would mitigate the COVID-19 without the ability to make virtual conferences through Zoom or through Google and other platforms, and the ability to shop online, the ability to make lectures, to talk, to do everything online. Think with the COVID-19 20 years ago, we would not mitigate in the same way that we succeeded to do it during 2020, 2021. It's a different world. And this is just an example. Most of the financial sector is on the cyber domain. And we see, for example, that it's changing transportation, it's changing many other things. We shop online. There are some issues where we simply do the same that we did in the classical physical domain. We also do it online, such as shopping, for example. But there are some issues which are new, and we haven't known them. For example, social networks did not exist in the conventional physical domains. They are new. So they are changing our society in a way more than just taking shopping to be online. Wars were before the cyber domain, so we add to the conventional physical domains, we add the virtual domain, but we did have wars before, and now we have a new kind of wars. But again, social networks, for example, or bitcoins, for example, are new. They haven't been here before. So this is a cyber domain, a new domain of human activity, a very important one. More and more issues and subjects will go into this domain. And since it's not just a revolution, but also a domain, also bad people are active there. And we have the issue of cyber threat, and we need cybersecurity as an enabler to positively use this domain. Without the ability to secure the cyber domain, will not be able to use it. Will not be able to use it for financing, for Zoom, for everything. We need security. So the Israeli approach, and here I go back to what we decided in the beginning of the 2000s. The Israeli approach was, yes, the cyber domain is changing everything. It changes our society, our economy, national security. But in order to really adopt the benefits of the cyber domain, we need first to secure it. So we chose in the way to first go to cybersecurity and secure our systems, our cyber domain, the Israeli cyber domain, yes, our sovereignty. First go to cybersecurity and only then to put all we need in order to better benefit from the new activity that we may do in the cyber domain. And this was a political decision. It should be understood, a political decision. Other countries may choose a different way, but we chose first to go for cybersecurity. And now this is how we see cyber. We have a dual approach, two-steps approach. First, cybersecurity, and then when I say how to use the cyber domain for other activities, for example, AI, artificial intelligence, which is all based on the data we bring across the cyber domain and use it for new technologies, changing healthcare, changing transportation, changing everything. This is based on the cyber domain. We knew AI even before 50 years, but it was different. The AI, which is based on the big data that we may generate through the cyber domain, this is based on the cyber domain, and we need cybersecurity in order to use it. So we chose to first build our ability to secure the domain and then to use it. For example, now we are trying to be big and to go for artificial intelligence technologies, startups, companies, after we did the first step, which was the securing the cyber domain. But don't be misled, we have still a lot to do in order to better secure our systems and cyber domain. We are not there yet, but at least we have a way. We have a strategic decisions, the strategic way we are following. What I mean by cyber power. In the 90s, we used to talk about information security. But cyber defense is much more than information security. And this is because cyber is not longer just the problem of some CISO in a company, the IT people. No, it's much more than that. It's a problem of the CEO of a company. It's a problem of the nation states, because cyber is not just some hackers here and there and only criminal issues. It's more than that. And here I want to talk a little bit about the regions of cyber power. Cyber as a power, not just as small attacks here or there. And this is the first issue I would like to approach. The second issue. The regions of cyber power are in the signal intelligence organizations around the world. Most of Western countries have such organizations. The biggest and strongest one are the US one, the NSA, National Security Agency, the British one, the GCHQ, the French one, of course, the Israeli. The signal intelligence organizations at some point understood that cyber domain is so connected to everything that they may bring intelligence through this domain. This was a real revolution in intelligence, a real revolution. The military people here know the frame of revolution in military affairs. This was not the revolution in military affairs, but the revolution in intelligence affairs. Intelligence, because most of the intelligence currently that signal the SIGINT, Signal Intelligence Organization, bring is through cyber. Because there was some moment in time that I understood that everything is connected, and instead of just waiting with the sensors to the information, the data, going from point A to point B and put some sensors in order to reveal it, to discover it, they can go to the place where the information is created. They became active, and this is a revolution because the signal intelligence organizations were passive organizations. They just waited for the data and information to reach from point A to point B with the sensors. No information in transit, no intelligence. They needed the transit of data and information. Once they understood that through the cyber domain they can be active and go to the place where data is in and information is created, they became active and they started to have much more intelligence, and not just data that is going in transit, but also data that no one is sending to no one, because it is in the computers. The programs of the nuclear program of some country are in the computer. No one sends them to everyone, but they are in the computer. You send when you want to purchase something. You send other things, but not the programs themselves. But once you can approach the computer systems, oh, you have much more intelligence than before. And they have large amounts of data. They need, of course, new technologies for transforming all this big data. This was the first revolution in intelligence affairs, not in military affairs. Making the signal intelligence agencies active and not passive. But then there was another revolution. Once they were in the computers of the rivals, they also understood that they can harm them. They can not just exploit them for bringing the intelligence, they can also do something to the computers. If they can do something to the computers of the everywhere, they can do it to every system that is based on computers. And every system currently today is based on computerized systems. So one, they understood that not just to bring intelligence, they can also attack. And they were the first to understand it from a governmental perspective, from military perspective. So if you ask which are the countries that know better to use cyber to attack, these are the countries that have very strong SIGINT organizations. They were the first to identify the ability, because they went through intelligence, to also use it for attacking systems. These are the origins of Cyberpower. The Signal Intelligence Organization made it a nation-state issue. Not just hackers here or there, not just crime organization, but they know how to build divisions in order to attack, to gain the intelligence, to do everything which is it in order when they want to attack, they may attack. And one of the most famous attacks made by the Americans and their allies was Stuxnet. Stuxnet is an attack that was so complicated on closed systems, not open to the internet, not on IT, information technology systems, but on OT, operational technology systems. And this attack in 2010 showed the world the ability, and it was not by the Americans, by the Signal Intelligence Organization. It showed the world the strength, the potential strength of such an attack. So the origins of cyberpower from nation-state point of view are in the Signal Intelligence Organizations, and they showed the world that it could be much threatening than we used to think during the 90s. In the 90s, it was information security, the problem of the CISO, of the CIO, of the computer people. In the 2000 and in 2010, everyone understood, all governments around the world, oh, it's a new big issue. Cyber is also a new way of power. Not yet so strong, currently just attacks, but it could potentially harm everything. The electrical grid, you will be left with no electricity. The financial systems, just think about not just stealing some money, but underlying the integrity of the financial system, which the integrity is the most important part of the banks, that, you know, changing some bits here or there, and $1 million can shift for one person to another. The electric grid, the financial system, healthcare, everything, because everything is computerized, and now it's not just hackers here or there, small noise, nation states. That's brought all governments to understand that we need cybersecurity. Israel was one of them. And in 2010, after our Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Netanyahu, visited, as I mentioned in the book, in the beginning of the book, the introduction of the book, I mentioned there that in 2010 he went to the SIGINT organization of Israel, Unit 8200, and through his visit there he understood how threatening this cyber risk could be to nation states, and he went out of this visit. He said, okay, this is too threatening. We need to first approach this before we do other things in cyber. I do not know exactly what we need to do, but I want also to use the opportunities that Israel is quite strong in technology and in security. Maybe we can also build an ecosystem to generate some benefits to our abilities to make good cybersecurity. And he asked his military secretary, this is how it works in Israel. Now going to the national security advisor or to the government, no, the military secretary is here with me, do something with this. This is the way it works. So he said, do something with this. Military secretary, Air Force general, he didn't know anything in cyber, he admits it. He didn't know what to do. But again, Israel is small, he had a friend. Professor Ben Israel, which was a former general responsible for all the R&D in Israel. So Ben Israel, what to do? He said, before you do anything, please read the book Babel Minute Zero, and this is the first connection between France and Israel in cybersecurity. Because he sent the book in Hebrew, it was published in Hebrew, to General Locker, the military secretary, who read it and gave it to the Prime Minister, who read it in one night. He was thrilled by what and said, oh, now I better understand. He said this was the first book he read which is not non-fiction. Usually he reads a lot, but non-fiction. This is some fiction. He said, but it was good fiction. From his point of view, a good fiction. Now he understood. And then he started the whole issue of how to approach the issue of cyber. First, again, the leg of cybersecurity. And here I comes to the third point which I'd like to talk about. What is so unique in cyber? How and why it is not the same that we are used to in conventional physical domains? So first point which is so important to understand is that cyber has no borders. Everyone is the neighbor of everyone. We are used to geography, meaning that France is a neighbor of Germany, and there were many years where there were some rivals between Germany and France were rivals, but you are not so close to Russia or to China. So you are not expecting any tanks to come from China to France. The same in Israel. We are close to Egypt, to Jordan. Iran is far away. Maybe airplanes, but not tanks. We think geography. And the islands usually are used to being islands, meaning they need a navy. Yes, they think in a different way because they think from geographical point of view, all the domains, yes, and the navy and air are quite different, but again. And we have sometimes we have regional conventions and agreements between countries. But in cyber, the geography is different. Everyone is a neighbor of everyone. You are our neighbors, you are neighbors of Israel, and you are neighbors of Russia and China, the US, and all the terrorist organizations everywhere, and they are your neighbors. No borders. This is changing everything. Those who think, I was hosted by some Japanese told me that they are trying to build some regional convention of cybersecurity. I asked them, what is the region exactly? I think the region is Earth. Not less than that. So what is the region? We need a global convention, not some regional. This is very important because it's changing everything. For example, when I'm asked, I'm always asked, and I now do it before you ask me, so who are the real enemies of Israel in cyber domain? My answer is, today these are our enemies, tomorrow it could be others, it could be everyone, but I should build my cybersecurity relevant and prepared for everyone, because I cannot change it according to my enemies. Today it's Iran, tomorrow it could be some of the great powers around the world. I need to be ready for everything, and we have the same enemies, and we should be prepared for the same attacks. Because once you see an attack, a sort of attack from China, for example, it could be in France, it could be in Israel, it could be in Russia, United States, everywhere. So the way to build cybersecurity is the enemies are not relevant, irrelevant. You should be prepared for everything, because once someone has it, it can also be in your systems. The second important issue, since cyber is different, not just that we don't have borders, the companies, the corporates, those who the computer systems belong to them, they are the digital frontiers of the nation. Usually you have some border. So there is an army, the military, that if someone tries to cross the borders from your enemies, you have the border, the military may defend the nation. But in cyber, there are no borders. So the attacks are going directly to the computer systems which belong to someone. They belong to organizations called government. They belong to organizations called military. They belong to many, many private organizations, but each and every computer system belongs to someone. Most of them are companies. And yes, the federal administration or the government also, of course, it's a sort of organization. So, since the digital frontier of the nation in cyber is not what we are used to, the private sector has a big and important role in defending not just its own systems, but the nation. Because all the attacks going through these companies, to this company, through this supply chain, to here, to the government, to everywhere. So we need a new way, a new strategy to be built for cybersecurity, different than we used to have. So you may ask, so what is the role of the government? It's if most of the computer systems belong to the private sector. The private sector has also business issues, and it is developing the private sector is developing all the solutions and the technologies for cybersecurity. So what is the role of the government? I was asked, of course, but I have financial people in the government. What is the role of the government? Why do we need to do something? A company may go bankruptcy because of many reasons. One of them is cyber. The government should do something for this. They are afraid, they're always afraid of new budgets, new organizations. So what is exactly the role of the government? An important question. Because if I say to you that the business sector is the digital frontiers of the nation, and the business sectors see cyber as a very important risk, and the CEOs of companies, yes, they put budgets on cyber because they don't want to go bankruptcy. What is left for the government? This is what I asked. I mentioned it in the book. I asked the director of the NSA after Sony Pictures was attacked, now later on we know, by the North Koreans. I asked him, you left it all to Sony Pictures. doesn't the federal administration have some role in defending this company? He didn't think there was an also role for the government. Since this is a private company, but asking, yes, but do you expect a private company, never mind what it is, it's not Google or Microsoft, they know to better defend themselves than most of nation states on earth, but most of the companies, take for example Israel, if Iran is going after a company, can I leave it only to the company to defend itself? Think about if the Russians going after a certain corporate in France, Thales or other, do you leave it only to the company or you need to do something? So we asked these questions and we thought that there are several interests of the government and reasons for the government, for the role of the government in the cybersecurity. First, when it comes to national security concerns, meaning, for example, electrical grid is not just the concern of the CEO of the electrical grid, but also in the interest of Prime Minister. No electricity, at least in my country, in my case, by the way, it's immediately Prime Minister. We skip all the levels. When something happens, where is the Prime Minister? No electricity, where is the Prime Minister? Some flood, where is the Prime Minister? Corona, Prime Minister. Everything is Prime Minister. Never mind that there are ministers and civil servants, Prime Minister. But really think about it. When it comes to electrical grid, it's a problem of the government. When it comes to, for example, if a bank is going to collapse. In Israel, if a bank is going to collapse, the whole financial system is in danger. In bigger countries, maybe one bank does not risk the whole financial system, but still, it's an issue. So we said national security concerns, the government also has a role. You decide what our national security concerns are. Critical infrastructures. For example, we have a certain definition for critical infrastructure. We have very small number of them. We do not say that the whole energy sector is critical, nor the whole healthcare systems, but only systems that are responsible for such and such percentage of our economy or may risk life of many people. Yes, a train, for example, or aviation or things like that, and only the electrical grid, not the generation of electricity, because we have redundancy. Even if Israel, that we are an island in electricity, we have enough redundancy, you for sure have it. But the definition of critical infrastructure, yes. In critical infrastructures, we do not leave it just for the decision of the CEO. The second issue, we call it a moral hazard, meaning maybe you have some ammonia tank and you do not care if it's for the explosion. But if citizens are going to be killed because of this, this is the role of the government to see that you are doing what you need to do. And other issues such as subsystems, maybe we have not critical system in the water supply, but maybe there is system underlie all of them that is dangerous. Maybe together if something happened, it happened in Israel, this is the role of the government. So we decided that yes, the government has a role, and we built a strategy according to this role. The strategy is a three-layer strategy. First, robustness, meaning all companies, all organizations, because it's not just the private sector, also the government, should build their best robustness using technologies, procedures to best defend their systems, so 95% of the attacks cannot penetrate. This is, by the way, the research show. 90 to 95% of the attacks cannot penetrate your systems. You're doing the right job in robustness. Still, some will penetrate because you're making mistakes, because they are better than your solution, and so on. And then we have the layer of resilience, meaning when something happens or when we know about something, how to go back to what we call to basic position. And here the government share information and work together with the private sector. In the first layer of robustness, the government is only a regulator. In the second layer, we partner, because there are some companies and teams that do not know exactly what they should do. The government should have, from our point of view, the capacity, the capabilities to work with them and to understand exactly what's happening and to try and then help them to go to basic position. And we have the third layer, we call it national defense. When it comes to really national security interest or to nation states attacking us, when we see a high-end attack on the country, this is not in the hands of the companies. Then we take what we call, responsibility, and it's only in the hands of the government. In the first layer, the government is a regulator. In the second, it is partnering with the company. In the third layer, the government is an operator. Governments usually are regulators. When it comes to military or to police, they are operators. But most of the civil issues, the governments are only regulators. They are not active. Usually, again, it depends on the specific state, but most of the services and things are deployed by the private sector, or by, even if this, in Israel, there are some governmental companies, but these are companies. So the government is usually a regulator. Only when it comes to security, it's an operator. In cyber, we think that the government should be both a regulator and an operator. Many countries have stopped their approach in regulation. European Union recommends on regulation needed, and some CERT organizations, so on. But governments should also be operators when it comes to high-end attackers on your country. That's how we decided to approach it, in an organization which will combine all of this. And as an operator, you need to bring the best people who know how to defend and understand exactly what's happening. And this is not so an easy task, because the high-tech market, usually the private sector, knows to better pay them and hire them than the government. It is complicated. We need to do several steps in order to bring the ability to bring these people to be part of the Cyber Directorate. So there are many difficulties. This is just one of them. How to be an operator, which is not going to defend everything all the time, but only the high end. And to see sometimes, oh, now we see a real attack. If you have sensors with agreement with companies and you understand what's happening and you have intelligence and you have several other things, you can combine all of them to understand where you see a real high-end attack and where it's a small attack, leave it to the private sector to deal with. So this is, from our eyes, the role of the government, to be both a regulator and operator, and when it comes to national security concerns, yes, operation is needed. But because of the specific uniqueness of this domain, we also understand that it is, should be different than we were used to in conventional warfare in the physical domains. The fourth issue, which I like to approach, and explaining after I explained about the specific characteristics of this domain and the role of the government. This was the fourth. I want to talk a little bit about, to end with, to talk a little bit about Ukraine and Russia. People ask me, okay, so the cyber is so dangerous. You had a specific chapter. Chapter 7 in our book is about the future of wars. But what is going to be? Hybrid wars, multidimensional wars, everything is going to change. See with Russia and Ukraine, tanks, artillery, killing people. So 90s. So 90s. What did Putin think about when he did it? So I have several important points to say to you about this. First, cyber is just in its beginning steps to become threatening as we think it could be. The potential is big. Currently, it is not there because of one very important reason. We know how to generate a cyber attack. We do not know currently how to generate a cyber power. Think about the difference between your Air Force doing one important attack on some nuclear reactor or on some terrorist. This is an attack. But to build your Air Force as a power, meaning that it knows how to do everything all the time, and whenever it is needed, because it has bombs, it has airplanes, it knows how to be active everywhere. It's a power. Small power, big power, but it's a power, not just one attack and then the rest. Cyber is not like that. Currently, the cyber organization, they think they are very strong and they know how to attack. Yes, they know how to attack. They are not built as a new power. They do not understand how the Air Force just as an example, activates. So currently we are not there yet, and it should be understood that in a decade or two, cyber will become a real power. If comparing it to air power, I may say that we are between the First and Second World War. But we will arrive to the Second World War, where Air Force become a new way of power. We are not there yet. Second, the Russians, they perceive cyber as part of information warfare. That's how they perceive it. It's part of the doctrine. It's not instead, and it does not replace the usual conventional power. It comes side by side, together. So you do not know, but before each and every attack that they had conventionally, they started with cyber artillery. 24 hours before the war began, they had cyber attacks. And with each conventional attack, they also have cyber attacks on the control systems, on communication systems, on about everything. They use cyber side by side with the regular force. Usually people do not know that or do not hear about it. Why? Because our ear usually is more sensitive when there are people that are being killed to some problems with electricity or with communication. Yes, we know there are problems, they will be fixed. But when people are killed, also most of what you hear in the media is about the conventional warfare, but there is a cyber warfare in between. We heard about it between 2014, between the Crimea, the invasion to Crimea, and 22. Russia all the time they attacked Ukraine in the cyber domain. In conventional warfare, we have wartime and large amounts of peacetime in between. In cyber, we all the time in a conflict because it is used all the time, even in between wars. So between 2014 and 2022, yes, they attacked, and they attacked the electricity, they attacked the communication systems, they attacked everything. And all the time around the world, you should know, there are cyber conflicts between Iran and Israel all the time. You don't hear it most of the time, only when something happens. For example, if they try to do something to our water supply, it is in the media. But we have it all the time. We have it all the time between China and the US, between China and Taiwan, everywhere. It is a new way, a new sort of war. It's not a war, but it's a enduring conflict all the time. And in wartime, cyber is used again by the Russians side by side with the conventional warfare. So, and there is one more and last interesting point which I would like to emphasize regarding cyber power, its potential in the future. the role of the global technological corporate. Microsoft is defending Ukraine, not just Microsoft. Microsoft is one of the most important players to defend Ukraine. Microsoft decided politically that they are in this side, not on the other side. It's a political decision. By the way, these big technological corporates become important from not just business point of view, but political point of view, because this is a political decision. They decided not to be in the Russian side. It looks trivial to us, but there will be other wars in the world. And then the question is, which side they will choose? They chose the Ukraine side. They decided to defend them. And they gave them all the information needed about the Russian attacks. They also helped them to defend themselves. They took all the governmental data into Microsoft Cloud, let the Russian attack the Microsoft Cloud. It's much more difficult than attacking the governmental cloud of Ukraine. Believe me, it is much more difficult. Microsoft knows the job. And the president of Microsoft said the front between Russia and Ukraine in the cyber domains goes through Redmond, Washington, meaning we are there. Political decision and capacity to defend. They know what's happening all around the world. 2 months ago, I received for the CISO of my university, Lviv University, Microsoft is telling that you are under an attack, do such things. Okay, I did. Microsoft knows everything that is happening around the world because they are there. Give me an example of a nation state which is so strong and knows what is everywhere in the world in computer system. Microsoft is stronger than most nation states on earth in the cyber domain. The same with Google, by the way. And Meta. And Meta also chose to let Ukrainians write bad things and kill Russians, what they don't usually let everyone to do, and this is a political choice. But the important point which I would like to bring is the role and capacity of the global technological corporates. They are stronger than most countries on earth. We should collaborate with them. Especially the democratic countries. If we believe that Microsoft, Google, and others have the right values and they are on our side, we should cooperate. And here I come to my last point before I will discuss it with Guy-Philippe about sovereignty in cyber. Sovereignty is something which is very important to Israelis, I know also to French people. We care about our sovereignty. You know, we do not let, for example, we never let the Americans to fight for us. Never. We are not ready. We are ready to let them bring us some equipment that we need. We buy equipment in the war, in the 73 war, with the wars in air train bringing us some, but only Israeli soldiers fight for Israel. And we care about sovereignty. And in cyber, it's it's an important issue. But caring about sovereignty does not mean that we should stand there alone. We cannot. And I say even the US, which is a great power in cyber, cannot stand there alone. They need the global corporates, and they need their allies also to be there because they need them together, the Five Eyes, yes, and others, to be there in order to build some capabilities, because when you know something happening in Great Britain or in Australia or in France, it can come to the US, and the opposite, they also need, and they built, I know, I worked with the White House, they built their cooperation with others, and they care for the sovereignty. The same as Israel. We care for sovereignty, but we know that sometimes you find the best solution in other companies, not just your own. It's not a regular air force to handle, which is only yours, and you need to collaborate with big corporates and with other nation states that are strong in this field. And you still care for your sovereignty because you do it because you care for your sovereignty. That's what our decision. We know a lot about cybersecurity. We built our strategic understanding of this. We built an ecosystem of cyber technology industry. We are currently, 40% out of the world private investment reach Israel, 40% to the US, 40% to Israel, 20% to other. But still, we are strong. We need others to work with us, whether it's Microsoft, United States, or other countries such as France. And this is my recommendation. We, the democratic countries, Western countries, should work together to build a world without cyber attacks harming the future of our cyber domain, which is so important to our life, to everything, national security, economy, and society. Thank you for this. And Guy-Philippe, the floor is yours. Yes.
Thanks again, Eviatar, for this fascinating talk and this huge, beautiful description of all the key elements of Cyberpower. I don't know if everyone does hear me clearly. Actually, I would like to, and thanks also for the introduction by the Minister. Much appreciated. I would like to build actually on that very last point, which I think is extremely important for our French audience in terms of how indeed you can defend the sovereignty of your country while, as you mentioned, and you made lots of great examples around that, while you do need to cooperate. What is the secret sauce so that you can be in this flow of cooperation and still maintain elements of control so that at the end of the day, your political interests are respected and you're not totally in the hands of other suppliers, other countries.
So now, yes, okay. So the sovereignty has to do with you decide what to defend, how to defend, and you build the structure in order to act from governmental point of view to defend it. But you share information with others. You let them. You give them information. It's bilateral. You give them information, and you receive information, whether they are other countries or big global, so a corporate. So you share information, and you are not afraid to buy better technologies. Simple as that. We, Israel, care for our sovereignty in the air. The airplanes are not ours. They are Americans. Yes, there are some constraints with it, but still, we are responsible for our sovereignty. I don't need INCYBER to have all the technologies to be mine.
Just to force a bit on that point, does that mean also that if you want to remain sovereign in this game of interdependence to some extent, you need also on your own to have some elements that, say, your partners, your other countries cannot, have, and that builds on this interdependence.
Exactly. Yes.
So
France should not be afraid of buying the best technologies around the world, whether they're Americans or Israeli. Some of them are French, but it couldn't be. It's not. We are not in the. In 1,000 years ago when everyone just made all the needs were in your country. No, so we're in a global world, and sometimes you need to know how to share information, to buy technology, to know where you are better in, and to receive others where they are better than you.
To build a little bit actually on the Israeli model, and we talked a little bit about that in the expose. You mentioned actually the great informality that exists among people in Israel that really help actually to exchange ideas and so forth. The question, say, from a French perspective, knowing and observing actually the great success of Israel in cyberpower is what can be the elements that France can inspire itself from what happened in Israel, and what could be actually exportable. What are the key things that did worked out in Israel that could be actually done also in France, to your point of view?
I think that Israel had two major decisions. is quite unique. Israel has the two major decisions. One, the decision to build a new advanced unique cybersecurity strategy and to implement it through governmental resolutions and to build the structure. In Israel, it's a cyber directorate, but it could be another structure to build a better cyber defense for the country. This is also done in French. I think what the French can do is to, and we did it, to study from others what their way to do that and to adopt according to your specific culture and governmental models what you need to do. But the importance of the government be part of the cybersecurity realm of the state. And the second issue, we built an ecosystem of cybersecurity, meaning industry, academy, and businesses. This again, I believe that in small to medium countries, the government has a role in generating ecosystems. Which role you should, again, decide for yourself exactly according to your businesses and government. But this is not the United States where they are so big, so you know the market know what to do and things happening. In small to medium countries, we are small. Sometimes you need the government to act as a trigger for things, to build something. So we did not replace, the government did not replace the business sector. We didn't replace the academy, but I give you an example. We saw that there were many researchers in our universities, but they didn't combine into cyber research centers. So we came to the university and said, we are ready to finance you for several years if you build cyber research centers. I cannot make you do that. But if you want to do that, I'm ready to finance it for several years. They approach me and say, if you want research center, finance everything. I said, no, only if you want, if it's in your interest, we are ready to share 50% out of the budget for 5 years, that's all. And this is a sort of triggering something which sometimes simply doesn't happen. Or to build an ecosystem or to invest in human capital. Human capital is something that the business sector doesn't know all the time exactly how and what to do. So the government has a role. You should decide what the role of the government. I think that ecosystems, in Israel cybersecurity, and now we're trying to build an ecosystem around artificial intelligence, the government should be one of the most important players. Not replacing the business, the academy or others, but sometimes the one that know how to connect them all to the ecosystem, putting some budgets here, responsible for the human capital, things that are not made through the market. So this is something which I think which also think about how sometimes the government should be part of.
The importance of a government as some sort of orchestrator of the development of the ecosystem. Two small questions around that, which may be of interest for the French audience. The development of cyber actually came out at a moment where there was also a development of so-called startups and so forth in Israel, and money coming from outside. You know, how much of that may have helped? That's one question. And the other question is, and because it inspired some of the policies in France, the importance of having one place, one totemic area. So here in Israel, I believe it will be in Beersheba, where there's this cyber center. You know, how much of that is important, or perhaps not that much, in the development of the cyber ecosystem in Israel?
Okay. Now it is green. Okay. I hope it will. So you had two questions. I have three answers.
Good.
And so my first answer is that the high-tech sector in Israel started its booming in the beginning of the 90s. First, it was more startups, and today it's more scale-up companies, I think. It took more than 20 years. And the ability to build the cybersecurity industry Part of it was the whole high-tech sector, meaning that the generation of new startups, people want to have startups, to be entrepreneurs, the money going into Israel by many VCs and other investors. It was part of this, yes. Second, regarding Beersheba, even in Israel, Beersheba is just the second place. Beersheba was important that we will not have just Tel Aviv as the core of everything, but also another place. Some interest. I think it's not too important if it's 1, 2, 3 places. It's according to the size of the country and where your high-tech sector is. You need a place where you can find the right human capital, universities, investors. This is a place where if it's in Paris, it should be in Paris. If it's in another place, it should be another place. I really don't care, but you need a place. So we tried also to build not just Tel Aviv as a place for high-tech, but also other places in Israel because of other interests that we have. And my third answer to you, to what you didn't ask, but you told me police. Again, I don't think that you should concentrate from governmental point of view all your capacity in cyber in one governmental structure only, but not in too many, because you do not have too many critical knowledge and people for many organizations. In Israel, we have, in the army, in Unit 800 here, there, and Cybersécurité and the high-tech. That's it. We don't have enough people. In the United States, they have more organizations, more people. So in France, you may go, to build some redundancy. It's good that there is some competition between, for example, police, the army, others, but not build too many. Not build so, because no one of them will have the critical mass of knowledge and understanding. So this is, if it's 2, 3, or 4, you decide, but this is something which I recommend to focus, to concentrate the knowledge and people in 2 to 3 places.
So this is an important point, I would say, not to have one central place only, but a couple of those to have a bit of competition,
yes,
and emergence of new ideas.
And different ideas, different strategies, but not too many.
Not too many. Okay.
For example, in our government, each and every ministry tries to build its cyber, because it's important cyber. So we have everything in our Ministry of Healthcare, Ministry of Energy, Ministry of this, Ministry of this, Ministry of this, Ministry of this. We have many ministries. Each and every one of them tries to build cyber unit to regulate, to understand. No chance. It's politics now. We said it will be one organization, Cybersécurité, will build sub-unit in each ministry, organized and supervised by the Cybersécurité, to have the critical mass of knowledge. They cannot build, simply cannot do that. I'm not the United States. They want to do it because of political reasons, because they want power. And this is something that you should come from a central view of the government. You cannot build real cyber understanding in all your ministries, in all your agencies, everywhere. You simply cannot. This will be poor organizations. You can concentrate in 2, 3, 4. I don't say exactly what the number is, but critical mass of knowledge. This is very important.
Okay. So I have 2 remaining questions, and then I leave it to the floor, because I'm sure we have very interesting people here, so I'm sure they have very, very interesting questions. The one will be really on say we're in France here, and currently, how could we build, an element of your win-win cooperation between Israel and France? What would be today, and perhaps also tomorrow, some of the ways where we could build, something which is meaningful both for Israel and for France in terms of cyber?
I think that you should try to view it from a perspective of which country has some advantages over the other. So from our point of view, from the Israeli point of view, France has big corporates that we do not have and we will never have, meaning that we would like to cooperate with them. France is part of the European Union, meaning it's a gate to Europe from our point of view. France is a large country, medium, not United States or China, but a large country, meaning it's a big market, interesting for us, and an advanced one, understanding in technology, understanding everything, not a poor one. And I think that the Israeli advantages, that we are very quick to adopt new technologies. We have a lot of very, I would say, advanced, gifted human capital in the area of technologies, much more than most of countries per capita. We have many investments in R&D, where we have a culture of startups. What we want is your corporates to work with our startups and with our technological startups and to collaborate. Currently, most of the big technological corporates of the US are in Israel. French? No. If you see Microsoft, by the way, the center of cybersecurity of Microsoft is in Israel. Microsoft has several thousand of people working in Israel, in cybersecurity and other places. We have most of the technological corporates of the US in Israel having their R&D centers, not just R&D centers, also cooperating with Israeli startup companies. We would like the same to be with France. We think that Israel could be a sort of one of the Silicon Valleys of Europe and specifically of France. Currently, it is not happening.
Okay, so we'll see if things move on, from this conversation. And so my last question, and actually, unfortunately, I will go back to Babel Minute Zero, if you oblige, because in your essay, you did mention that there would be future confrontations that could be even worse than what was in Babel Minute Zero. So I was a bit shocked, and I wanted to ask you, and we can do a bit of perspective here. What do you see are as more important threats, coming our ways in the, I don't know, like short or distant future, and could be worse than some of the breakout in the critical infrastructure, which has been documented and written in fiction and so forth?
So I will answer again two answers to your one question. The first, I'll just give you an example of what hasn't yet happened. The integrity of data. We saw it in the United States 2016 elections. We see it here and there. But I think that cyber influence, meaning the penetrating into the integrity of the data, the trust, is not there yet, and it will be. There will be a struggle about what is true and what is not true. A struggle about the truth. And through AI technologies, you will be able to imitate people talking, everything, and cyber attacks will use it. You can use it, for example, to take bank out of the business, just to say things, just to give the wrong information to people that have to run on the bank without doing anything, without attacking its systems. Just the integrity of the data, maybe to know things that other, and so on. So I think that the whole cyber influence and integrity of data is something that you didn't talk about. You wrote about cyber attacks, more from Western point of view. We do not send missiles, we send cyber tools. But this is something, the cyber integrity is in you and coming. And my second answer to you will be that one of the reasons I said this is because I come from a neighborhood that when I'm asked, and did you sleep well at night? In the Middle East, you never sleep well at night if you have some responsibility. So I know that if something may happen, it will happen. If something worse can happen, it could be. This is how we live, the Jewish people from the Holocaust and the Israeli state. We know that bad things may happen. We do not sleep well. So you wrote everything. This is, I know this. Now I'm afraid of things I don't know. That's why I said this.
Well, I definitely share this beautiful sentiment myself. Thanks again. Now maybe we can open up to questions in the audience, because I see lots of... There are smart people, and if there's any...
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Eviatar, for your extremely interesting intervention. I have not, of course, your advice not to excessively multiplicate the structure, because we need critical mass. But could you explain, could you detail what you have done to organize your university ecosystem to have the engineers that you need for your cyber raw or Cyberpower, please?
Yes, we did several things. First, we understood that we need many cyber people which are not just engineers or graduates of university. So first thing that we did is to have courses of something between 3 to 6 months to educate young people to be cyber defenders. And this is in the low level, it's enough, and you need many of them. And this is the first thing to do, to have many human capital in this area. And we did make it, we used our, our disadvantage and advantage as having mandatory service in Israel. So what we did is we cooperated with the army, and they chose young people, graduates of the high schools, and they built this course, which later on this enabled the military to have enough people in cyber, and later on they become the cyber people of our high-tech industry. This was the first thing that we did. And we also added some cyber education in high schools, together with Ministry of Education, again, so that we have the basic capabilities to do something. And second, we asked the universities to have, I call it, some programs in cybersecurity, inside engineering, inside computer science, most of it computer sciences, but also electrical engineering, but focused on computer sciences. And we built a lot of awareness about it everywhere. So more and more people wanted, to switch into this and went to study, because there is industries that are waiting for people. We talk about it a little. They can earn a lot of money there. So when we make this everything known, they go to universities, they study there, or they go to the courses, not engineers. And so I can tell you that we have enough people, which is interesting, because in 2012 I couldn't say this, but something between 3 to 5 years later, the army told us we have enough people. So we succeeded to surpass the need, the basic need. Now, of course, we need to proceed with this. It's not enough, but we succeeded to do that. Yes. I recommend on not just on engineers.
Okay, thanks.
You have spoken a lot about the role of the Israeli government after the attack happened, according to 3 different levels, operator, partner, and regulator.
The second, yes.
Yes, but does the Israeli government has a role to prevent the attack to be successful? I mean, the different companies, it costs a lot to invest in cybersecurity. Does the government has a role in this topic?
Okay, so first we recommend to companies to invest something between 5 to 15% out of their IT budget in cybersecurity, and we let all the ministries to have 8% at least. Now, this is first thing. Second, we do not replace the defense, but as soon as we know about specific attack coming, yes, of course, we let them know. And we know many of them we know in advance. Many of them we know in advance because we have several kinds of information concentrated in one place. All the sensors in Israeli companies that cooperate with the National Directorate, all through agreements. Sometimes you do not see it here, but you see several things among all of them, so we understand. All the intelligence community is also connected to this, and to this one brain that and connected, and we know how to make the information not confidential. We know how to do that. And third thing, we have some agreements with global corporates. So taking all of this, we know a lot about many, not about all the attacks, not about everything, but many, as soon as we know something, confidentially and without other people know, we go to the companies, we go and tell them, do such and such, you should close this, you have here a problem, you have here vulnerability, close it, something is going to happen, something is already happening, you do not know about that. So we share this information freely and all that we have. And we expect them, by the way, to share information with the directorate in order to have more information in the future. But we give the information even to those who do not share. And we have examples of, for example, a specific sector that most of the companies that we probably told there is going to be an attack, close. Most of them said, okay, thank you. One or two said, it's okay, and they were attacked. And then you went to the media. These were, cloud services and things that went to the media. There were problems, and there were many attacks successful. So the same with hospitals, it happened again. But the important is to have the information from all the origins together, to analyze it and to share. For example, intelligence community never share. Never share. I can tell you because I also came from intelligence. Never share. They cannot. It's against their DNA. That's why we needed a new structure, a new directorate doing this, because they do not share. They share only if this is something so high-end, so dangerous, and because they do not like to lose their... it's against the DNA, but that's why we have a place where all the information comes and share, and share, yes, and this is... it's against the DNA from organization. Yes, please. First row.
Israel is a country of entrepreneurship. So how were you able to refrain companies from building their digital ecosystem until you finished your cybersecurity framework, which is one of the topics that you explained at the beginning of your...
What do you mean? I don't exactly understand the problem.
You said that it's important to build first the cybersecurity,
yes.
So the cybersecurity framework before developing all the digital service.
Yes.
So how are you able to refrain the companies to build their digital ecosystem?
Okay. No, we never tell them what to do. What we did is the government invested its budgets in this area. When you invest in cybersecurity, when you put it as an important issue, you also, in a way, direct the market. If you say cybersecurity is important, and I have budgets to give you for R&D in these issues, and I will not buy digital services from companies who do not obey this and this and this, it changed the market. This is soft power, never to tell them what to do. We do not interfere into the business market, just a sort of a soft power. If you want to work with the government, if you want budgets for R&D, we have more budget here than in other places, but we have also in other places and other. It's not just it. Yes, please.
Can you tell me if the arrival of quantum computers will facilitate or complicate the cybersecurity and the cyber technology mostly?
So I'm very careful with my answer. I can tell you that quantum computing will change many things in everywhere, and in AI specifically, not just cybersecurity. Quantum communication or can change cybersecurity, because if you and there are some places in the world where you can share information through quantum means, and this is quite cyber-secured mathematically. So it's going to change a lot of things. And it will also change it because quantum computers will be able maybe to solve the problem of, to solve the current, how do you say in Hebrew? to solve the current method that you use for crypto, to solve all the crypto technologies that you currently use. Currently, they use the crypto technologies, encryption. Thank you. I forgot the word. Encryption is currently based on the capacity of computers do not let them solve the encryption. So this will be changed. So quantum computers. There will be several influences, but we influence everything, not just cybersecurity.
Yes.
Hi, Eric Baudrel, Member of Parliament. You talk about the sovereignty. The question could be, what is the limit you have in cooperation with Microsoft? If I want to be clear, we have to be prepared for a global war with cybercrime, but for sure we have to be prepared for the global competition, economic competition we have day by day. When you talk about the sovereignty, you introduce this thing with a political point of view. But we have also economical point of view. So, as you know, in France, Microsoft is welcome, and the other companies are welcome, and they can do business with some company in France. But we have question. We have question about the fact that they use some tools such as Cloud Act or something like this. So, I do agree with the fact that we should make business with democracy, we have common values, and if you want to be prepared for a global massive attacks, including cyber tools, we have to think about the next hour and not only tomorrow. And the next hour is the economic competition. So we could not have only an open bar system. So if we want to, can you go into details in the limit of the cooperation you can have with some companies such as Microsoft or other? Because I believe that in Israel, Americans do not do what they want, and the French do not do what they want. So what is the correct balance you find?
Why do you believe that this is what's happening in Israel, the Americans do what they want to do and in France?
Because you say previously that when you are in war, for instance, there are only soldiers coming from Israel to do the war. So I believe, or my opinion is that you make the same choice for the cyber thing. Do you understand that?
Yes, but you think that Americans are doing in Israel more than they are doing in France? That they are
I don't think anything. I ask you a question.
No, they are not. Listen, we see the United States as our closest ally, and we need some. You know, I tell you, I will answer directly. We need a superpower behind us, because you know, in the United Nations, they have the veto. You also have, but they use it. They are our first ally and friends. They use it to help us. So we need them. We are very close allies of them. Yes, and we are not afraid of American companies because we think that they play a game that we know how to play. And we manage the conflict with them. We don't agree to everything that Microsoft or Google want, but we, you know, the same as we do not agree with everything that France wants with the Palestinians, and you do not agree with everything that we want, but still we have very good relationships. So we have very good relationship with them. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we do not agree, but they are our partners. And the way to build it, for example, is if the Cybersecurity Center of Microsoft is in Israel, they are also dependent on Israel. Once we disappear, they do not have a cybersecurity center for several years. The same with Intel or with other companies. So you build it, you manage this. And I do not pretend to be equal to the United States. But you manage the way that you work with these companies. And we have less, I admit, we have less fears than you regarding American corporates. They are good. That's why they win. Do you have an answer to Microsoft? No. Do you have an answer to Google? No. Do you have an answer to Meta? No. So what do you want? What do you want? I told the Americans when they talked about the 5G technology of Chinese companies, what should we do? I told them, do what you are very strong in. You don't have technology to compete with. First have technology, then talk with me. So you are talking, well, I don't know, Microsoft, Google, Meta, but you don't have an answer. It's not that Israel has an answer. I don't pretend to be stronger than you. But what I'm trying to see the good issues. There are companies. Yes, I do not agree with everything they do. For example, Meta is a very complicated, dangerous company in a way. So maybe, but in other ways, it's also a positive company. So you should manage the conflict with them. You should manage the conflict with the world and other, the same as you manage relationship with other countries. See them as not just from your economical perspective, also as from political. If you take these two directions, I think you will know how to choose and what to choose and what to do with them. For example, when we are now building our cloud, the important issue is to have redundancy, not to be dependent on one company only. You need at least two. But we will choose companies from Western democratic countries. The same you, don't be dependent on one company only. Try to have redundancy. Try to also them to be dependent on you. Build a relationship with them, but understand that it's not just economy or business, but also politics. That's my recommendation. And I will be glad to further talk about this and about the decision of France. I think that sometimes you too much care about saying sovereignty and France and too much. France is a big country, important one, with a good economy. You do not have what to care about your sovereignty. You need, to go forward. The world is changing. Be part of it. You're one of the big players, not the small players. But don't let the world be advanced more than you. See the United Kingdom, for example. I know that I should be relieved when I said the United Kingdom, but they chose a very interesting way. They put most of their investments in high-tech. They become one. London has more unicorns than all Europe together. This is a choice of the government. And they do not care if they sometimes cooperate with American VCs. Now they have many VCs of themselves. So what I'm trying to say, the Israeli VC market started with Americans. Currently, it's not Americans only. It's much more than that. So you should choose how to be also technological. Now, you have all the basic issues needed. You are a technological country. You have big corporates. You are advanced. One of the most important economies in the world and very technological. Don't be afraid of this. It is not the same as it was in the old industrial world. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, well, on those words of hope and thinking about codependence, I think we have to
work with Israel.
For example,
we are redundant. We are redundancy to the U.S.
That's a good slogan. Well, thanks again.
You.
Thanks, Eviatar. Thanks for the very nice invitation. And I think we can have a couple of drinks. Buy evidently the book in French by Eviatar, and having actually Eviatar sign it, and continue the conversation. Thanks a lot.